We have two guests who are joining us now, and we want to look at what we are seeing politically. So, today was going to be the mother of all demonstrations, as had been billed by the Azimio leadership. And then they decided, you know what, because the president has spoken and he has extended an olive branch, and he says, let's approach a different, take a different approach. Raila Odinga and Martha Karua and the others addressed the Kenyans yesterday, and they said, let's call off those demonstrations, at least for a week, and see the beginning of what's going to happen next. To understand and to unpack this, the demonstrations, the call for demonstrations, the conversations that are happening in the country, we're now joined by two people. Dr. Fred Ogola is a governance and political analyst. He's also with the Linda Ugatuzi. Vugu Vugu la Linda Ugatuzi.
Yes.
Vugu Vugu.
Yes.
La Linda Ugatuzi. Championing devolution in the country and saying it's under threat and we need to do something about it. GERALD BITOK is a political analyst. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good
morning to you. Good to see you.
Karibuni sana to the conversation. CT has the day's proverb. It's from Congo, Brazzaville. What's the name of that country? So we know the other one is the Democratic Republic of Congo.
This is Republic of Congo.
This is just the Republic of Congo.
Republic of Congo.
Democracy, wachana na hiyo.
Well, it began in the early days after the independence in 1960 as a Marxist country. That was the inclination. And then around 1979 or so, that changed. So Marxism, I think, went to the Atlantic Ocean. And some that didn't go there, of course, followed the Congo River into the Atlantic Ocean. So they're now just the Republic.
So there's just the Republic of Congo.
And remember, City Munga, that when you hear in Africa anything that if a country's name begins by democratic, it means there's no democracy. When any constitution or any institution name begin with independent, no, what they don't have mostly is independence.
Okay.
So it talks about what it doesn't have most.
Yes.
What you are being informed as being present is actually absent.
Yes.
Okay.
The proverb?
If the needle doesn't pass, the thread won't follow.
If the needle doesn't pass, the thread won't follow.
Yes.
Dr. Harry, what do you think of this?
You know, this one is a difficult one because what is the needle passing on, you know? Of course, you know that a needle is a little sharp and it can exert pressure. And you see a thread, it cannot exert pressure. So it means that you must create some pathway so that what does not have pressure, like a thread, because it can bend, can now enter. That's my thought.
GERALD?
Good morning. I think I was listening when I was on my way, and
So
two interesting things.
you have more Kenya from
I
other.
have more Kenya somehow. The two interesting things is that first of all, while growing up, we imagined actually that the name Congo originated from short people, because we used to call short people Congolese. Someone in Fupi kama Mkongo. So I didn't know that there was another origin for that country's name. But coming back to the proverb, I think I agree with the gentleman who made a political interpretation of it, and it's about leadership. Like, you know, the thread is a weaker part of the whole scheme of knitting. And the needle is a bit stronger. So I could think about leadership. And I think that also played out yesterday, that the needles are making a pathway, and looks like the threads will not have a choice but to follow. The needle yesterday made a move, and the thread today might not be under mannering. So I think it's leadership. There's a part that those people in spaces that are in the places of leadership somehow make a pathway to have any other following multitude or structure as to bow to it. So I'd look at it politically and also in terms of leadership, that there needs to be a pathway that is created by a leader so that every other person can follow suit. When that does not happen, then many times we find that the thread does not find the pathway into the cloth. Yes.
So let's look back at the last couple of weeks. Okay, actually months, from all the way from January. The leadership of Azimio said they want to go to the people and engage with the people because of what is affecting the people. That their issues, their list has been changing. You know, every new day we keep talking about it here. So we are not sure what the issue is, but they've crystallized around some issues. One, electoral justice. We are the ones who call it electoral justice. They say three things. They want the IEBC selection panel, to be involved in that reconstitution. They want the Cherera 4 reinstated, basically just muddying the waters on that end, open the servers so that we see for sure whether you won the election. The whole conversation about this guy who was the whistleblower started in earnest and then it just faded away. So it's no longer about the whistleblower and 8 million votes, it's about just open the server. The other issues have been on the cost of living and saying you should reinstate or reintroduce a subsidy for unga and a subsidy on petroleum prices. Then there have been all these kind of conversations about the constitution of government and accusing the Kenya Kwanza administration of constituting a government focusing more on two tribes, and then the other tribes are just getting, small tokens here and there, and that's been an issue. And that formed the basis for nationwide rallies into the 20th of March, which now started as weekly protests. Yesterday, the president said, I have listened to what Kenyans are saying. I have listened to the religious leaders. I have listened to others. And I say it's about time that we sit back and listen. And the issue that I'd like us to address is on the composition of the IEBC selection panel on the formation of the next IEBC. And for that reason, I'd like to extend an olive branch to Raila Odinga and ask him to consider a new approach, bipartisan approach through parliament, blah, blah, blah. Raila came and said, I have heard what the president has said. Well, he didn't call him president. I've heard what Mr. Ruto has said. And I take note of what Mr. Ruto has said. And yes, let us immediately embark on that journey of having a conversation. Both leaders were asked by the journalist present, what about the cost of living? It was not the main agenda for saying, let's have a conversation, let's halt the rallies. It appeared to have been the main agenda for calling the rallies. So what do you make of what the president and Right Honorable Raila Odinga said yesterday? Starting with you, Dr. Ali.
First of all, Eric, I'm sure we are here with you at some point when we are talking about the issue of strategy, and I told you that a good student in strategy must be good in history. So without understanding history, it's very difficult to be very strategic. That's why I talk about the issue of analysis before, situation analysis before you go do anything. Remember, Moi called this thing MOU. Kibaki called it Nusumkati. Uhuru called it Handshake. Ruto has called it bipartisan. Now, and now I don't know which is the next one. We just wait, these words keep on going. Also remember some historical things that happened. Everything happens, for example, before we did the handshake, President Uhuru Kenyatta was in Ethiopia. Raila was to be sworn in. And you remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta was not as strong as his deputy. You remember, Ruto never wanted this swearing in to take place. And he said it won't happen. Look at Gachagua again and Ruto. Ruto was away during this time when Mandamano were going fever pitch. Then you find again that Gachagua was saying it won't happen. We can't talk about any negotiation. The only negotiation will be, how do you go home? So you see, every time the president is there, the deputy takes more hard lines than the head of state. So now this has happened whereby the thread again has been led by the needle. The needle says, okay, let's talk. When the thread was saying we can't talk. Now the thread has to follow. Thank you very much, Gerald, for that, in this direction. Now, let me put this to perspective. According to me, what I make of this, if I've told you that for 4 presidents, it has ended up into some kind of negotiation and different names but the same thing, why do we have to wait for property to be destroyed, lives to be lost, if we know that's the way? If you start quarreling with your wife and you know by the end you are going to go out for dinner, don't even quarrel. Tell her, sweetheart, let's just go for dinner. Why do we have to fight is when you go for dinner? Why do we have to throw tear gas and do all those shenanigans and kill our economy? We lost 6 billion shillings a year per day for the demonstrations. Remember, Kenyans were in a place whereby people from abroad want to book summer holidays, and Kenya was not a place to go because this money has gone to Tanzania and the rest. We've lost foreign direct investment. We've lost so much. Why did we have to lose this just to do what has always been done? Handshake, nusu mkate, or something like that.
It sounds like you're alluding to that they knew that there was going to be this conversation
yes, if
before.
You knew, yes.
And that all these things that happened, they kind of knew that they were going to happen. And so you're saying, why waste time fighting if we knew that we were going to come to the table
Yes, because even if they say
why would they know something like this and still allow these things to happen?
I did a press release as Operation Dogatuzi, and I told them, Mr. President, the buck stops with you. Don't ask me about Raila as alternative, because let me tell you what, my dear, the right answer begins the right question. Normally, people don't know this. And remember, when we were in primary school, secondary school, whenever exam was put on the table, there's always a moment when the teacher could come to correct the exam question. The bright students will raise their hand and say, question 4 is wrong. You have to change it so that you can get the right answer. But the stupid students will just say, why are you wasting time? So you realize if the question is not well formulated, the answer will be wrong. So I'm sure, of course, you see, by being a professor among the ones, Malimu question 6 is wrong. If you put it this way, the answer cannot be there. There is no correct answer. So the correct question was that Raila had got all options considered. The last resort, he could not win through parliament because parliament has been taken. There was a perception the judiciary was gone. Everything was gone. The only thing remaining was the street, and he went to the street. So the next question was, what were Ruto's alternatives, not Raila's alternative? If the alternatives were checked, and I made it very clear in some press statements, that Ruto rules State House because he has got legal license to rule State House. He was sworn in the legal way. Raila rules the street, which he calls social license. The street feeds State House. And when Raila cuts the pipe to State House, the economic pipe, State House has to come out and talk. And that's what's happening. That is an economic imperative. So if that is the case, they knew. And if anybody is brilliant in Kenya Kwanza government, they knew. If they don't know, then we have to question their intelligence. So they knew. So they took us the route which we knew where it's going to end. Raila told Ruto, if Moi came to handshake me, who are you? So how could they not know? And I'm sure the Kenya Kwanza people have enough brains to know this. If not, then that's the question. So for me, at the moment, I'm not even looking at the issue of bipartisan. The question is, Eric, do you believe that the parliament can be bipartisan? The answer is absolutely no. So me, I would like to suggest that let us take this thing out of parliament and let us involve more stakeholders, because if we just go through parliament, there'll be politicians deciding our fate. All this time, I announced you Musumkate, MOU, and the rest. Everyone has gotten what they want, who are political power. But Kenyans using people's power never gotten a benefit.
We don't get anything.
So let's get this thing out of this political arrangement. And I'm calling upon you as media people even to make the voice stronger, that we'd like to have the 4 estates involved in this negotiation now.
Okay. We'll come back into what this thing is that we need to get out of parliament. But Gerald, your initial reaction and understanding of what happened yesterday?
I think first of all, I mean, there are a lot of telltale signs in the political scene. If you've been here long enough, then you'd understand. I think my first heartbreak was with Uhuru Kenyatta. That handshake that Uhuru Kenyatta made was my biggest heartbreak. And it really changed how I looked at politics and how much I tend to invest in political causes, in emotional political causes. And there's a bigger message, especially to Kenyans, in what happened yesterday, that you'll be involved in everything else except negotiations. Yeah, maandamano kuja, beba mawe, kuja tukule tiakas, fanya nene, but where negotiations is where they draw the line. When they go to speak about negotiations, that's when they leave you out. So I think there's a bigger message to Kenyans in the sense that political processes are not necessarily your processes. You know, go vote, that's your process. Go vote, go home, and start working. Move on with your life. If politicians have their own beef, then they need to fix their own beef in the spaces that they think they find it fit for themselves. So it's not just a message to myself, but a message to 50 million Kenyans that while the process of politics is ongoing, you need to understand that we are all Kenyans. And the only thing that we have control over is what you're going to eat in your house at the end of the day, how you're going to pay your school fees, how you're going to manage your life. But what happens at the top is not your business. These gentlemen will stand in the next of, down some stairs and they say, beef imeisha. They can decide even bei ya unga imeshuka. Like yesterday, there's a truce. Bei ya unga imeshuka bado. The issues that are being raised. Has the IBC been fixed now? The cost of living, has it come down? Has the servers been opened? They have not been opened. But they are saying, well, we can have a conversation. Have we been involved? Have they come back to Pipeline? Have they gone back to Kibra? Have they gone back to Dagoretti, to go and Kangware to come and do it, to go and tell them how things have changed? They have not. So those decisions are going to be made at the top for the bottom. So the bigger message is that on the issues of IEBC, it is not a new problem. And also the person who is raising it is also not new. It has been very consistent. Remember the issues of Isaac Hassan, there was Kivuitu, then there's Chebukati. I think politicians tell us a lot of things except how these processes are done. For instance, IBC, nobody tells you that Chebukati was actually a member of ODM for 10 years. He actually ran for a seat on the ODM ticket. And for the longest time, a lot of trust was bestowed on him. And the IBC as it is. When you look at the formulation of IBC as it is, Raila Odinga is making a demand that Sheria reform must be reinstated. So he has a problem with the process that is there in picking up commissioners by William Ruto and the
How
Parliament.
did you feel about the events that took place yesterday, Gerald? I mean, I hear you saying a lot, but again, essentially, another handshake has taken place.
Personally,
what did you feel about that?
I think personally, I'll be very disappointed if Raila Odinga and William Ruto shook hands. I'll be extremely disappointed. That's number one. That is how I feel about it, because it means it speaks out of a lot of deceit. Because these guys, they're rallied us on both parts.
Okay.
Because William Ruto has spoken very strongly. You remember that he won the presidency on a story that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta should not have shook hands. That the handshake government messed up the country, and that he has a better way to deal with Raila Odinga. So if you were telling us that you're giving us a prognosis and diagnosis of a situation that we thought that you're going to fix for us, and then again, with that diagnosis, you give us the same treatment, then we'll have a problem. So that's why I have a problem with William Ruto as a person who has supported him several times. I've voted for him, I've supported this government. But on the handshaking Raila is where I draw the line, because on what basis are we having this handshake? What exactly are we going to fix? Has it worked before? It hasn't. You remember 2017, Raila Odinga came out very strongly and said that the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, is not the president, doesn't recognize Uhuru Kenyatta as president. He swore himself in as the people's president. But then again, somehow, everything turned, including the IBC. Some of the issues that I say the handshake was supposed to fix was IBC. Now, almost 5 years later, we're still talking about IBC. So if William Ruto is telling us that he's going to shake hands with Raila Odinga, on what principles? On what basis? How does it benefit me as a person? How does it benefit the people who voted for him? Because actually, a bigger majority of people who voted for William Ruto voted for him because they believed that he had a prescription for Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Now it seems that we're just about to walk the same path. I really have a very big problem with that. Unless if we're having an handshake, it has to make sense. Like what he has said before, that he's only going to stick to the constitutional means of negotiating a way out of the issues that Raila has. He has talked about the issues that Raila has raised. He's talked about building up a bipartisan process to fix that. I think the law provides for how IBC can be constituted. But I was having a conversation with my brother here before we walked in. There needs to be a better way of constituting IBC other than the political process. Because we're having only two parties which are arguing over IBC. Well, we have almost hundreds of political parties in this country. We have interested, even me, I'm an interested party. Why can I not be involved in selecting the IBC panel? Because they decide over my vote. Why can't we have people from different sectors talk about the civil society, talk about the church, which are now playing a very huge role in negotiations. We cannot think about fixing IBC as an afterthought. That only when you have a problem is when we start saying, Eric, kuja kidogo tuonge, Andu, kuja tuonge when you have a crisis. But the way it is, as it is right now, IBC remains to be a ping pong between two parties. Either person,
and nobody else.
When someone,
Dr. Ogola is saying, let's take this thing out to the people.
Yeah, let's take it out, because
what is this thing?
Look at this. Look at the commission as it is now in 2022, as it was. 4 commissioners have pledged allegiance to Raila Odinga. 4 commissioners out of 7. We have one who seems to have been lying in between. Then we have the other ones who have not really spoken very strongly on what was going on. But you can imagine the way the commission was selected then when the handshake was there. Nobody had a problem. In fact, Junaid Mohammed stood on a podium and said that they have a lot of faith in Chebukati and IEBC as it is. Now, akasema ameziba shimo zote. There is nowhere William Ruto is going to escape this time. So faith was there a few months ago, less than 7 months ago. But now they have a problem with that with that IEBC as it is. So there needs to be a better way. Take IEBC out of politics. Let other people decide on it so that they become a referee that nobody owns. Because when you are talking about a presidential candidate who owns 4 commissioners,
Gerald, will the politicians allow this freedom that you and Professor Gola are talking about? Will they actually allow a situation where the participation is nullified and is non-existent, or it is insignificant?
What I was saying the other day is that you can't set an exam, then sit for the exam. In fact, one of the worst things that have taken place in governance, let me first of all disclose that I'm those who applied to be commissioners of IEBC, and I applied because I wanted to test whether these
this
guys
recent one now.
Yes, I applied.
Okay.
I wanted to apply to test whether they can be independent process, because qualification is not my problem. I have more than qualifications. And then, of course, I wanted to know whether can I be shortlisted. I'm waiting. But as I was telling Gerald,
Did you get shortlisted?
I'm waiting because they were supposed to announce it, but after Raila's announcement, I think it has been.
For this. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
it's no longer interested. That's why I can talk. I could have not talked at all. Because you see, what's happening is that how do these guys get into office, the select panel, first of all? I can tell you these things are sometimes bought, if not most of the time bought. So why is the select panel has been appointed in a partisan manner, they will also execute in a partisan manner. The other thing, which is the biggest undoing for Raila Odinga, which he has to correct in this time round, when you bring your friends or people look like girlfriends to the people who are within your system to rule, who do not know anything, how comes Cherera was coming on the day the results being announced to know something was wrong? I mean, if you bring competent people to sit there on your behalf, you'll get competent outcome. In fact, look at the guys. Those guys, when they came on the last day to say things were wrong from the
So you're
beginning.
saying he should correct this, so that he should make sure that the person who sits there on his behalf this time is better.
Yeah, because I'm telling
And
you,
you don't
even
see a
yesterday
problem
when I
with
had
that,
him saying
Dr.
he
Sure.
wants the former commissioners to be reinstated, I was realizing that he has not changed the game at all. He's not.
But
He's not a
Professor
game
Gola,
changer. Yes.
Professor Gola, Oswago was Raila's person.
Yes.
The current minister for ICT was Raila's person. I'm talking about people who are in this IBC setup, call it electoral commission, call it what you want. Now, so long as we remove Raila out of the equation and talk about the politician whom we know as Raila, and then look at other politicians and the influence that they want to wield within the IBC and everything else that happens in our lives.
and the interest as well, the independent interest.
Because IBC right now is a sticking point because of the elections we've just come from. But it isn't just the IEBC. That's why I asked
That's
the
what I'm trying
question.
to tell you. What I want.
Yes.
If Raila wants to succeed, because before people have believed Raila knows the answer to the questions, but at the end we have gotten disappointments. Raila should have trust on the competence of the private sector. I was talking about the 4 estates. First is the politicians should be involved because they are the key stakeholders in the thing. Political party liaison committee must be involved, isn't it? Then you go to the private sector. You'll get some technocrats in the private sector who can know the right thing to do. Then you go to the third estate, which is called the civil society, which includes NGOs. Remember, private sector must also include academia, because we need that to come on board. And then lastly, we need the media to come on board. Remember, media was a stakeholder. They were shot. They are the people who suffer at the hands of trying to say the truth, because remember, if anything is going on when the media is not there, it's like something happening in darkness. At night, there are so many things that happen.
So if Raila wants to succeed,
Sorry, I'm saying to say, according to me, if he goes this route, to go through parliament bipartisan, I told you parliament cannot bipartisan. In fact, I was surprised when he said, we shall try to explore this route. And lastly, Eric, if I can just tell you openly, I said it, Raila thrives a lot when there are chaos. For example, there is something like Mandamano. He will do it in a way that you have no idea. He will win. He won it. But Raila is a very poor boardroom negotiator. And by the first statement he made yesterday, I'm realizing that things don't go wrong, they start wrong. If you take this route, Raila was supposed to say, no, first of all, let us do wide consultations. You cannot tell us it's going to be at parliament. You know why Ruto says they should live in parliament? He knows he rules parliament. And Ruto does not respect institution. He believes the individual there. Mr. Wetangula is there. He sees KRA, so and so is there. He sees he sees people in just the institution, does not respect the parliament institution. And if he takes them to parliament, remember what happened during the election of the speaker and all these things. They said very clearly that Azimio is not a party. That's ruled by Wetangula. You go to parliament, they say within the constitution. So within the confines of the constitution, he's captured all the key institutions that govern the constitution. So if you walk that route, you are out of the way. They should think outside parliament, constitute somebody outside, and once we have formed that body, then we can say, will politicians agree?
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. I'm listening to all this and I'm wondering, so where is the Kenyan? Where is the citizen?
Yes.
What does a citizen need to do for the citizen to succeed? Watch Raila to succeed and Ruto to succeed. Those ones, they can sort themselves out.
Yeah.
Where does Ogolla succeed?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.